Local stories, local people. We're taking you inside Western Mass news. It's the Even Better Western Mass podcast with Dave Madsen.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Even Better Western Mass podcast. It's June. Can you believe we're just about halfway through the year 2020? Hard to believe, though, since pretty much for most of us, the last 2.5 months have been a wash. But people are starting to get out, going to parks, and they're golfing. And restaurants in Massachusetts will soon be open for outdoor dining, in addition to the takeout and delivery that many are already doing. We are still a long way from getting back to normal, whatever that normal will be, but we are taking small steps as we continue to social distance and wear masks. Wherever you are, I hope that you're doing well. Well, later in this week's edition of Even Better, my second conversation with the producing director of the Majestic Theater in West Springfield, Danny Eaton. This time around, Danny and I talk about the decision not to reopen the theater until after the first of the year and the impact that COVID-19 has had. My first guest, though, is Suzanne Parker. Suzanne is the executive director of Girls Inc. of the Valley. Suzanne and I talk about the impact COVID-19 has had on the young women they serve and the additional challenges that the shutdown has created. We also talk about how you can help as Girls Inc. launches Project Red. Let's talk about Girls Inc. and your mission and your vision.
Well, our mission is to inspire girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And right now, our vision and our mission is even more important than ever. We really want to try to stay connected with those girls. They're ages 5 all the way to 18. And during this pandemic and crisis, we know that they're struggling. They're at home. In some cases, they're home alone. They're needing supports to stay connected with adults that care about them. So our mission is, again, more important than ever to help girls get through this pandemic. You know, how do we get on the other side of this in a positive way where they can still be strong and smart and bold in the way that we know that they are?
Well, this COVID-19 provides challenges for all of us. I can imagine for these girls, it's an even bigger challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many of the families that we work with and that we support are living in neighborhoods that don't have a lot of access to resources. So girls prior to the pandemic were dealing with issues of racism and challenges of poverty. And so the pandemic just even magnifies those challenges even more, and now take away the supports of the school environment where they got to see their friends, and, you know, youth development programs like Girls Inc. and others where, you know, they were able to get that peer support. They were able to get the support from those caring, mentoring adults. And now their family members may be out working and they're on the front lines. And so it's really more important than ever for organizations like ours to stay in touch with girls, to stay connected with them, and provide opportunities for them to be connected with each other.
And I know Girls Inc. helps these young women in any number of ways.
That's right. I mean, normally, right, we're in person, we're partnering in schools, or we're on college campuses working with girls, where they're coming to our teen centers. And so to not be able to do that face-to-face in person has been a challenge for us. But our staff, our program staff and our board members and volunteers have done a remarkable job of finding ways to stay connected with girls. We've checked in, we've made lots of phone calls. You know, what are they needing? Connecting them to food distributions. You know, what are the things that, you know, the basic needs, but then letting girls know we're there for them. We're staying connected. Girls have been able to participate where it's been appropriate for them to we've got Zoom activities. I think everybody's going to get zoomed out by the end of this. It's a whole new verb, right, that we have. Did you Zoom today? But girls are able to tune in. We've been sending activity packs. A great example of a really fun workshop, one of our board members, who happens to be an aerospace engineer, decided she wanted to help the girls learn how to bake bread. What a great life skill. But people think it's something you can't do. So she arranged to have all the supplies sent home to girls, the flour, the yeast. We got it to them. She made a 20-minute video so the girls could, you know, make their bread. And then she provided an opportunity where they could, you know, Zoom in and do it with her. And then some girls, they did it on their own, but then they posted pictures of the bread that they made. So finding those ways to connect with each other that's hands-on, engaged on, it gives them something to do, right? Something hopeful outside of just dealing with this challenge of the pandemic.
And I'm guessing too that the key to all this and during this COVID-19 shutdown is to stay connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we know that, kids, youth that are in vulnerable situations, and I think any child right now is in a vulnerable situation, and as we're dealing with this pandemic, in order to help them get through it and to adjust to those challenges, they absolutely need to have the presence of caring, supportive adults in their lives. So those connections are absolutely critical to youth getting through this and adjusting to this in a positive way. The other things that are really important are, again, those reassurance, hearing from adults that you're going to be okay, we're going to get through this, here are the facts, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and here's how, we can help support you. Giving that emotional reassurance is just so important. And then routines, some of what we're doing is to say to girls and families, you can participate in Girls Inc. Here's some times during the week. We're recommending that they do get physical activity in some way. And so really helping families establish those routines and providing opportunities for girls to participate is really important for kids right now as well.
I can imagine when all of this struck in March, as many businesses and nonprofit organizations had to do, really shifting gears to be able to serve the people who need you so badly.
Yeah, it was, it's all a blur right now. And when I think about, the minute by minute, day by day, information was changing as it was coming out. I think it was the Friday before all of the schools started to cancel. We just, I really could see that writing on the wall. And I think there was a tendency to either just say, no, there's no way, we need to be closing because we have to be there for the girls, to then realizing, the health and safety and really was critical. This is a life-threatening illness that we needed to think about how to protect our staff and certainly the girls. And clearly, obviously shortly thereafter, the governor then announced, the stay-at-home advisories. So we really needed to transition quickly. And I'm really proud of all of our team here that made it happen. We sent staff home. Every single staff person has a laptop that has remote access. We made sure that staff had the technology that they needed so that they could continue to reach out to the girls. So they immediately started calling, connecting, reaching out. I think the other challenge, and maybe it's an opportunity, is really trying to figure out how to provide engaging, meaningful, hands-on Girls Inc. experiences in this, virtual world. And what we're finding is it is a challenge, especially if, teenagers are, being asked to tune in for different things for school. They don't want to we don't want kids to be sitting all day, looking at a laptop. I think even as adults, right, we're a little bit exhausted doing it. So we're really looking at how do we provide, packages of supplies. We sent activity packages to our elementary school aged girls. They loved it, and the parents were giving us such great feedback. These are supplies that many households take for granted, basic things like paper and crayons and scissors and just some different activity ideas. The families that we're working with are really, really in need of those kinds of things. So as we gear up for summer, that's what we're looking at. How do we provide really awesome, cool, fun, engaging workshops? We're going to be sending girls and providing them with the supplies and materials from some really great activities. Then they can also have chances where they can connect with us virtually through a Zoom or other things like that. So, and then our staff will continue that personal outreach, phone calling every girl and family at least once a week during the summer, checking in with them, making sure they're okay, and that they know we're there for them.
Now, how does the state reopening things in those 4 different stages? Where does Girls Inc. fall in that range?
Well, we're currently, one of the programs that we run is a licensed childcare, a licensed after-school program. So all of the licensed child programs that have not been approved to do emergency care are under an order to be closed through the end of June. So we know for sure we will not be we're starting up that in-person programming. The big challenge right now is balancing the needs, right? I think this is the conversation across the country, balancing the needs of the families who are going back to work, who are in the workplace, and the need for childcare and the need for summer programs. So it is really challenging. I spoke to an executive, a peer of mine who is doing emergency childcare, and boy, I applaud the programs in our area that are doing emergency childcare. What a Herculean task that is. It is not easy for the staff that are doing that. It is not easy for the youth that are in those programs. So we're still in that deciding phase of thinking through when and if it is safe for us to reopen in person. You know, do we have the capacity to provide an experience that is positive for the youth as well as for our staff? And until we know that we can do that, we're going to continue the current plan, which is virtual programming, remote learning experiences, staying connected with the families for phone calls, and sending supplies home to the families.
So that's the plan for the foreseeable future.
Exactly. We've got 2 major programs that we know absolutely are going to be doing virtually and remotely. Again, I think we have to think of a new name for this, because it's not just virtual, right? We don't want just people on computers, but whatever this new learning experience is. Will be our Eureka program, which is our STEM program for older girls. And then we'll also do some really exciting, really great activities and programming during the summer for our elementary school aged for kids. So at this point, the big question is, will we at some point during the summer open some minimal in-person programming for those parents who have to go back to work? That's the question I'm still working on answering.
All this uncertainty really is as far as where this is going to go. We don't know if it's going to come back either.
That's right. And that's right. And I think as a leader, that's the biggest challenge, our planning with the unknowns. And we've been, okay, we have scenario A, scenario B, scenario C. There are so many unknowns. But one thing I do know, Dave, is that the people in this community are generous. The people in this community really care about what's happening, and we've seen just amazing things. We've had our board members and volunteers stepping up, being involved with us, helping raise the resources that we need. We have a new project that we've just launched called Project Red, where we're trying to provide basic hygiene and menstrual products for girls for a 4-month period, and that's a huge effort we're taking on right now. So there's so many challenges, but I think there's also incredible generosity and support. And I think there's a lot of learning that's going to be happening through this.
Let's talk more about that Project Red, because you're talking about personal hygiene things that really I think most people take for granted, but I guess we really shouldn't.
Well, so imagine if you're a family and you're living in a neighborhood where there's not a lot of resources, so you don't have a grocery store nearby, and your transportation is very limited. So the one time you're able to take that bus, which is a health risk, right, even just to get on a public transportation, and you grocery store or to the box store, and you get there to get your hygiene products that you might need for your daughters, and the shelf is empty. That one trip that you can take, for those of us that have access to transportation, we might say, the store is empty today, but we're gonna get there early tomorrow. It's a real challenge. So families are choosing between food and choosing between getting basic hygiene products. We've surveyed our girls and our families. We know there's a need out there. So normally, girls in our programs, they would have been able to access basic hygiene products at the schools. The health offices and the nurses' offices, they're able to, if there's a need, they're able to access those products. Or they come to our youth programs at Girls Inc. and they're able to access. So we know it's a need, and our goal is to provide girls and families with a 4-month supply of those basic hygiene products to get them through those summer months. And it's something very concrete that we know we can do that can help.
When you were saying all that, it just made me think that these young girls in these situations are facing obstacles at every turn, whether it be from childcare, the wellness supplies, transportation. I didn't even think about that, the dangers that pop up at every turn for these young women.
That's right. And in many cases, we know the schools have done a really incredible job setting up food distribution sites. And, if you think about it, okay, great. They can get the food distributed, but that means having to go out and, put your mask on and go out and get to that distribution site and get the food and then get back. So every time you're going out and you're connecting and you're out there in the world, I guess you're exposing yourself to some increased risk. And I tell you that, again, the organizations that have been doing the food distributions in the schools, again, what an amazing, amazing thing that they've been able to do. We're actually, as we're looking at distributing the hygiene products, we're looking at partnering and connecting with them. And we've gotten great feedback from some of those contacts at those sites to say, oh, yes, 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 please come help us distribute these hygiene products to girls that are also coming to get the food.
Now, if people would like to help in this distribution or just to help Girls Inc. in general, what can they do?
Well, they can go to our website, girlsincvalley.org, and on there, there'll be information specifically about Project Red. We have created an online giving page just for Project Red. We have a great committee of our staff, and actually 2 of our teenage leaders are on that committee. And they've been working hard to raise money for the project so we can purchase the supplies needed, but also they've been collecting supplies. So stay tuned on our social media as well. If we're going to be doing drop-offs where people can, drop off supplies, we'll post those. Obviously, we don't have somebody right now at our office all the time, but if we know ahead and somebody contacts us, we can arrange a time for a safe, healthy, socially distanced drop-off.
And I'm sure you're finding too in this time that folks who've supported Girls Inc. in the past and new people are coming out, because it just seems like in this time people are looking for some way that they can help.
Yes, it's remarkable. We were supposed to have an in-person, our big Spirit of Girls fundraising breakfast that we do every year. People look forward to it. We have up to 500 people. And, of course we couldn't have that event. And people responded. We ended up doing a big push on Giving Tuesday Now. And we were so thrilled with the outpouring of support that we received. And we had a real good increase on a large number of just brand new donors to us. So I think people are looking for ways to help. Knowing the work that organizations like ours, there's so many out there that are doing such great work. They can make a difference in the community by supporting organizations that are staying connected with youth and families.
Now, as a nonprofit too, the challenges that you face with many people out of work and there might be less donations coming in. You're talking about a major fundraiser that you had to cancel, or I don't know, cancel or postpone it, but that provides a new set of challenges for you too.
It really does. And in so many ways, you just have to rethink what we're doing. And I think some of our board members have helped us really think, well, don't just say, well, we would have had this event, so now how do we create a virtual event for that, but how do we rethink how we're reaching out? So similarly to how we're reaching out to girls and families, our staff are simply calling some of our donors and supporters to check in. How are you doing? And they want to know how Girls Inc. is doing. So it's really a conversation. And what's been amazing, Dave, when we've made those calls, and really they are just purely check-in calls, we've had donors say, hey, you know what? I want to make a donation, and I'm ready to send my pledge payment in. I mean, it's truly astonishing. We really were just calling to check in, to say, hi, here's what we're doing, let you know we're still open, here's what our staff are doing. And their first thought is, wait a minute, no, I need to make sure we continue to support you. We keep saying, I think there's the phrase, boy, if we only had a crystal ball, right? You could just know what to expect. Some of the real big question marks are, we do receive some state funding for some of our specific programming. What's going to happen with the budget, with the state? We know there are, likely be some cuts coming. So, there's going to be lots of hard decisions to be made ahead. But what keeps me going is the incredible people that we have on our board of directors, the amazing staff, and just the girls and the families themselves, and hearing their stories and how much it means to them to stay connected to Girls Inc.
So good to know that Girls Inc. will be there no matter what path we have to take.
Well, isn't that the goal, right? We need to stay strong through this for the girls and families and keep that connection, but also to make sure as an organization that we come out on the other side of this even stronger, right? I think in some ways we're going to learn resiliencies that we never thought we had. And maybe even some of the ways that we're reaching girls now, one of my board members pointed out that by figuring out the ways to reach out to some of the girls now actually may help us reach some of the girls we never could have reached before, because there have always been some inherent obstacles to girls participating, whether it be they just can't get the transportation to get to the center, no matter what, where they live or what, it just can't get here, or their daughter does not attend a school where we provide Girls Inc. programming. So now imagine if we've figured out how to do this remote virtual combination of a Girls Inc. experience. Well, might we now be able to reach more girls? It's possible. We'll see.
And that's it. I think out of this tragedy, as it has been for so many people, that there will be some good to come out of this. And as you said, new ways of doing things and coming out stronger.
Yeah, that certainly is the hope. What is the learning? And we benefit so much from having a national network across the country. So Girls Inc. has a national organization, and I have, over 80, sister affiliates. I have peers that I can connect with. And what's been really exciting is we're learning from each other. What are they doing in Metro Denver? What are they doing, in Long Island? What are they doing in different affiliates? And there's just such a sharing of information, strategies, and innovations. It's really exciting, and I do believe that there will be lessons learned from this that we will take into the future that will make us a better organization.
My thanks to Suzanne Parker of Girls Inc. for taking the time to be with us. Now, if you'd like more information about Girls Inc. or to donate to Project Red, you can visit their website, girlsincvalley.org. My next guest is Danny Eaton, the producing director and the founder of West Springfield's Majestic Theater. You may remember Danny was a guest on the Even Better Western Mass podcast earlier this year. This week, though, Danny and I catch up on the impact that COVID-19 has had on the theater. We also talk about the decision not to reopen the theater until early 2021.
The shutdown hit right in the middle of a very popular and a play written by a local playwright. Let's talk about that. And I mean, this was really quick.
Yeah, we had to close down in toward the end of the third week of our 6-week run. So there were a lot of people who missed out on seeing the pitch. And then, of course, 9 to 5 never happened. And so there were thousands of people who had tickets for that show, and we're looking forward to it. But the good news is we have a reopening plan. And right now we have set January 9th as our reopening. And we are going to reopen with the pitch and pick up all of those performances that we had to suspend, and that's going to be the start of it. And we'll follow that with a 2-character musical, really funny musical called Murder for Two, and we'll have Craig Eastman and Bo Fitzgerald and the Yank Kelch Band and Mrs. Givings, Father Miss Givings, back in March. So people who had tickets for all of those shows, we're just going to honor those tickets. And so instead of seeing them this March, they'll see them next March. And let's see. And then we follow that with my new play, Betty and the Patch. And then 9 to 5 comes back, and we close out the year with 9 to 5.
So an ambitious scheduled, shorter runs for the plays themselves?
No. There'll be full runs because we have to accommodate our subscribers. But yeah, there'll be full runs, and so people who had tickets for the pitch and didn't see it, they will, their tickets are still valid for the same day of the week as they would have come, and their very same seats that they would be sitting in. So we're just picking things up and moving them down the road a little bit,
Now, why did you opt for a January opening as opposed to your traditional September opening?
Yeah, well, we thought that, we've been researching online to see what other theaters are doing. And, some of them are trying to do things in late summer with social distancing. And we actually got a program or notice from Wintix, which is our box office system. And of course they have our seating plan and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they said, well, here's a social distancing layout for you. And so we took a look at it and said, well, you know, we'd go from 229 seats to 45.
Wow.
And it didn't make a lot of sense. Plus we thought that, you know, come end of the year, come January, there will be a vaccine out. And so I think people by that time, you know, people will feel a little bit more comfortable about, you know, coming into an enclosed space like a theater, you know, and
Yeah.
sitting next to one another. I mean, even if we were to open up later this summer on a social distancing basis, I mean, we always, you know, you got the cafe, which you could sort of social distance there, but then you got the bathrooms, and you know, how do you social distance the bathrooms? And
Yeah.
so,
Too many factors.
yeah. So we figure, you know, knock on wood, January 9th, you know, we've got a plan in place, and including our 25th season, which you'll be interested in. This opens with the Buddy Holly story.
I saw that because your flyer went out a couple of weeks ago, and
Yeah.
so the Buddy Holly story, that's what got everything going.
Yep.
Now,
Right.
new
Right
cast,
back at
same
it.
cast, mixture.
No, it's going to be a different cast for
So it's
sure.
not going to be like Buddy Holly had he lived.
Not quite. No.
That's exciting. What a great way to start the 25th year. And I think just from the whole attitude and everything, by the time we get to September of 2021, people are going to be ready to get back to having some fun. And what a perfect production.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the Majestic itself. A lot of people don't know that it's a nonprofit, and I imagine, just like many other entities, you've taken a huge hit with this.
Well, we are, but we've. I mean, fortunately, we were in a pretty decent cash position when we had to close, and so we were able to keep virtually everybody employed through April, I believe it was, and then we also got some money from the payroll protection plan, and but right now most everybody is furloughed, and so that enables us to just kind of husband our resources. And you know, the funds that we had in place for, you know, the pitch and 9 to 5 and, you know, Bo Fitzgerald and Yank Kelt, were able to just essentially sit on those funds, and instead of offering refunds, you know, people will get to see the show. There'll be some people who want refunds for sure, but you know, we'll deal with that when you know, we figure we're going to be able to reopen the box office, not for street traffic, but for phone traffic and all of our computers and things like that, first week of August, I guess. And so we'll start dealing with ticket issues and then. But.
Sure. Now, in this whole pandemic and during the shutdown, you, like many other businesses, have found creative ways to keep the Majestic's name out there. Let's talk about what you've been doing for that.
Yeah, we've created some online programming that's just pretty interesting. Fortunately, we've had DVD recordings of several of our children's theater productions, and we've been able to stream those, run them for a week or so. You know, people go to our website and they'll find a way to track down the children's theater production. I think right now it's The Little Princess that's running. You know, we run The Jungle Book and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and There's some more coming up. So there's that. Behind the Curtain at the Majestic, series of interviews. We started that program with Ben Ashley and talking about the Buddy Holly story. But actually, at that point, I couldn't let the cat out of the bag. But
what are you hearing from subscribers?
They are. I think they are very appreciative when we touch bases with them. I mean, we've got, we early on we made a concerted effort to collect everybody's email address. So we had to literally call people up and say, can you give us your email, because that's going to be the easiest way for us to stay connected with you. And so I think we had like 10 people, calling. There are over 2,000 phone numbers, right? And so chatting with people during that process was really good. They were, happy to hear from us, and what's going to happen going down the road, and what do you think? And so that was a great way just to kind of stay in touch with people. And now we have all of those emails, and we do at least one big email blast every week. So we're really staying connected, I think, with our audience base. If they tune in on the children's theater stuff or the Behind the Curtain stuff, that's even better. But they're at least getting communication from us. And last week this whole package went out with announcing the reopening and the 25th season. And so
right here.
Yep, there you go.
We have it. Yep. Let's talk about behind this curtain at the Majestic. How can people access that?
Everything is through our website.
Through your website, okay.
That's a Zoom process right now. I think I get a little technologically confused sometimes. I don't know which platform we're on. I think sometimes we're on a Zoom platform and sometimes we're going to YouTube. So I think, but everything begins on our website. So
sure. And then
whatever platform ends up streaming it. And I think we've moved to YouTube, in part because Zoom was costing us a good chunk of money, and we kept running out of Zoom time, and
you're limited to your time.
Zoom time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You're very savvy about Broadway, and what kind of an impact is this going to have on Broadway and the plays down there? I know some have shut down and will not reopen. I mean, this has got to be huge.
It is, and I think fortunately actors are used to, I think, filing for unemployment as part of their careers. Actually, you get a gig and you're out for 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks or something, and that show ends, and then you go reopen your unemployment claim. So but and of course you have to remember that Broadway and off Broadway, they're commercial. So they're all about making money, so people invest in them in shows with the hope that they're going to be popular shows and there's going to be a financial return on their investment. So it's a different game there for sure, and I think until people are confident that there's going to be a return on their investments, that not much is going to happen, But it'd also be nice to see. I think if I'll give you an example. We did a show here a few years ago that I co-authored, John and Paul, about Lennon and McCartney. You remember that show, right?
Yep.
People raved about that show and said, "Oh, you got to take it to New York and this and that." So I had people actually in Las Vegas that, mildly interested in it, and a producer in New York sort of mildly interested in it. And while we were able to produce that show at the Majestic for, I don't know, $100,000, something like that, in that neighborhood, to just even get it open in New York in an off-Broadway theater that was of a comparable size to the Majestic, 199 seats, would capitalize at $500,000 just to get it open.
Just open.
So, that's the nature of business there.
Well, the other thing too is my guess is that people are going to still be reluctant to travel, especially to big cities like New York City, and that really puts the emphasis back on local theater. And the fact is you can see something as good, if not better, than you'd see on Broadway right here in Western Mass.
Knock on wood. Yep. Yeah, certainly. I think there's going to be, my daughter who lives in Manhattan and works in Manhattan. But of course, her office is shut down. Most of her work is, on the computer and over the telephone and so forth. So she's able to work remotely, and she has been for, since the middle of March or so. She just moved out of her $4,000 a month apartment in New York because, she hadn't been able to be there. And so my son Andrew, I think, went down and helped her move out, and she's got all of her stuff in storage now and staying with her mom down in Enfield.
Yeah, so, just a huge impact. Well, Danny, I got to tell you, it's one I am looking forward to January 9th and getting back to the Majestic.
Yeah, me too.
My thanks to Danny Eaton for taking the time to be with me on this week's edition of Even Better Western Mass. If you'd like to learn more about what's going on at Majestic Theater in West Springfield, go to their website, majestictheater.com. Well, before we go, I want to share a post that I recently saw on Facebook. It reads like this: as we start to open up, you do you, I'll do me. That's what America's all about. None of us have the same circumstances, medically high-risk family members, a restaurant that could go under, things like that. Let's all stay in our own lanes and keep the judgment down as we begin to reopen. No one should feel pressured either way. The point is, everyone has different viewpoints and feelings, and that's okay. Be kind. We each have a different story. If you need to stay home, but be kind. If you need to go out, just respect others when in public, and be kind. Don't judge fellow humans because you're not in their story. We're all in different mental states than we were months ago. So remember, be kind. I'm Dave Madsen. Thanks for watching or listening to this week's edition of Even Better Western Mass. Stay well, stay home, and if you can, join me next week.